And then what they'll do is they'll have two or three other agencies within the government trying to debunk what was just leaked. And what Grant Cameron says is that this is just an ongoing process of basically red-pilling the public a little at a time. They kind of go overboard and send some news out by a leaked source, and then they debunk it and bring it back. They're kind of just throwing stuff out there and then bringing it back and furthering the disclosure down the road, basically.
Yeah, they are. And it's interesting. I had a guest on, Trent, a couple weeks ago. He wrote a book about, in the, I think, 1890s in Texas, where the UFO crashed into a water tower in a little town. But when he was a little kid, his father was a dispatcher for the local police department. And all of a sudden they got phone calls in that a UFO landed, in the parking lot by the hospital. And, by the time they got the police there, the UFO was gone. But he and all the townspeople, came out to see naturally what it was. And he said there was like about a 30, 40-foot round circle burnt into the asphalt. And all around this round circle, it looked like if you took a molded, not lead, but mercury, and poured mercury droplets around. And he said that was what it was like. And then, in the middle of the night, put it this way, the next morning, the parking lot was repaved.
Wow.
In the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
And his father told him it wasn't from the local police department calling anybody up to have it, it just all of a sudden got, re-asphalted. I don't know any towns or anybody would come out in the middle of the night like that and, and re-asphalt it and cover it up.
No, that just goes to show you that there are government agencies that have resources that they can do those things in a matter of seconds, and the fact that they know about it ahead of time is scary as well. And they are there, Johnny on the spot. It also reminds me of the Cash Landrum UFO case. It's a close encounter case where two women and one of their woman's sons were in a car, and they came across this massive, looks like a diamond-shaped UFO hovering over the highway in front of their car. And they get out of the car, they stop it, and they look up at this huge craft coming towards them, and they actually see, they counted 28 military helicopters escorting this thing down the road and then veering off the highway. And, of course, what happened from that famous case is both women immediately suffered radiation symptoms. They lost hair. They had burnt skin. The young boy was not affected because he stayed in the car and was actually hiding under the dash of the vehicle and had some kind of metal protection there. But the funny thing happened in that case as well. Overnight, that stretch of road that was affected by basically the same exposure to whatever radiation it was totally repaved. Not only did they pave over it, they took up all the asphalt first, and then they repaved the road. That's just another incident of shows you how quickly they can respond.
Well, yeah, I just don't think they're wanting the public to know that that strange things are still happening and will continue to happen. And I really think what they're trying to do, now this is just me, Gary, with my own opinion, is by releasing what they're releasing is basically confusing people. And I think they're confusing people purposely. Like Nazi Germany, from the mid-30s all the way to the end of the war, they were probably the best at propaganda. But yes. You know what? I think we learned a lot. Because right now, I think that's what they're doing. I think what they're doing is every time they admit there's something strange that's unaccountable for, they release it, but then right after they release it, they try to debunk it. So, I mean, it leads people back, to, wondering, well, if it's real or if it's not.
Yeah, I think that's, I call that spaghetti disclosure.
Oh, yeah.
I've coined this crazy term. I believe what they do is they throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And, of course, along with the spaghetti, sticking to the wall, they send up some sauce as well. That's disinformation. They just kind of cover the whole thing with disinformation. So they have plausible deniability if they need to.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're good at that. So, I mean, I hopefully one of these days, I don't know. I hate to, to go driving down the road and all of a sudden see a whole bunch of aliens, taking over the local 7-Eleven or something, It's just, you just never know. I mean, eventually they're not going to be able to cover up something. It's going to be where it's just not going to happen. And I think enough people are going to see it where they can't debunk it. I mean, they can only make so many people look like they're crazy.
Yes, and I think that's exactly what they are preparing for. Some kind of move on behalf of the extraterrestrials, perchance, where they cannot cover this up. And what they're going to have to do at that point is figure out how to stay ahead of the spin when the reality hits.
Yeah.
There's this Project Bluebeam, of course, everybody's been talking about, where they could actually have a false flag event that looks like the aliens are landing and or do whatever they want them to do, whether they think it's a threat, to try to get us into another war, or whether they want to use it as kind of a mechanism to docilize the public. Either way, they do have capability of making something look very, very real. So I think people are going to have to be discerning if some kind of incident like that happens.
That, or you have a look at this one thing, and we only got a couple minutes left here. Do you know, maybe they just know way more than we know. Maybe what happened, like with Eisenhower, maybe happened. And Jackie Gleason with Nixon, maybe, Jackie Gleason to his deathbed, claimed he saw an alien, that Nixon, showed him, an alien body.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I don't know. A lot of people I've talked to, they say, oh, Bigfoot are friendly. They're loving. I talked to people on here and say, oh, they've been contacted by the Greys and they're really loving. Okay. But I look at this, right? And I say this all the time. I like steak. I like barbecued chicken, and I like fish. Now, you look at this. If somebody has the technology, maybe to come from a different solar system or a different dimension, they're going to look at us no more than we look at, I hate to say it, your pork chops you had for dinner last night.
Yes, you've got, the stories of the reptilians, you've got the stories of the Greys and the Palladians. There's all sorts of interesting stories, and we don't know which one is correct, or they might all be correct.
Well, I don't want to find out. I'm 66 years. Maybe I'll leave that up to my sons and my daughters and my grandkids to find out. I don't want to find out that part.
Right. Exactly.
So anyway, we got like 3 minutes left. If somebody wants to, somebody out there is interested in what you guys are doing, can they sit into one of your meetings that you have with your UFO group, or who would they contact?
Well, yes, they can. Of course, if they're ever in the Linwood, Washington area, they can join us at our local Denny's on 196th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Wednesday evenings. But since you do have a worldwide audience, it's going to be a lot easier for most folks to go to Facebook and look up UFO I-Team with a lowercase I, and they can join us live for our streaming broadcasts every Wednesday night. If they'll like our page, they'll get notifications of when we're on the air.
Well, too, since you're actually officially next week running the show on Sundays between 7 and 8, I'm sure, hopefully, you're going to have guests from your group and people out there in the UFO field and all that stuff. I hope.
Of course. I'm looking forward to that. We have a lot of folks that are just dying to come on and talk about what they do.
Okay, sir. Well, I'm going to let you go. We'll be on tomorrow again from 7 to 8. Hopefully your phone doesn't drop out like that. It's funny. Every time we touched on a little touchy subject there, your phone went.
I know. Well, I am going to try to fix that tonight, and I'll be much better tomorrow. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, don't worry about it. Make sure you pay your bill next time.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And everybody, starting next week, Michael W. Hall is our host from 7 to 8, known as the Paranormal Lawyer. So if you have a question about something paranormal, you need to ask him, I'm sure he'll take your call. Everybody, hey, we got to step out of here. Kevin will be on next with his guests from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So, everybody, you have a great evening.
There once was a man who had some land in